Have you ever stopped to think about where your smartphone, your coffee, or even the clothes you're wearing come from? Chances are, they've traveled across oceans and continents to get to you. This intricate web of global trade is something we often take for granted. But right now, it's flashing some serious warning signs. The World Trade Organization, or WTO, just dropped a bombshell of a report, and the numbers inside are ringing alarm bells across the globe. Let's break it down. While last year, 2025, saw some positive growth in global trade, a welcome sight after years of turbulence, the forecast for 2026 is looking grim. We're talking about a significant slowdown, a cooling of the economic engine that could impact every single one of us, no matter where we live. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the report, we need to understand the bigger picture. Global trade isn't just a bunch of ships crossing the sea. It's a living, breathing system, incredibly sensitive to what's happening in the world. Think of it like a complex organism. It reacts to political decisions, international conflicts, climate change, technological shifts, and especially the tariff policies that countries put in place. And lately, that organism has been under a lot of stress. For decades, the world seemed to be moving towards more and more free trade. This idea of multilateralism, where countries work together, was the dominant theme. But in recent years, the tide has turned. Nations that once championed open markets are now building walls, adopting more protectionist stances. We saw just how fragile our global supply chains were during the pandemic, when getting simple products became a massive challenge. Now, in 2025, we're starting to see the consequences of these shifts. So, this WTO report didn't just appear out of thin air. It's the culmination of months of intense analysis. The folks in Geneva have been crunching trade data, talking to member countries, and evaluating global economic trends. Their job is to be the referee of international trade, making sure everyone plays by the rules. And when the referee blows the whistle this loudly, we need to pay attention. The timing of this report is what makes it so crucial. We're standing at a crossroads. The decisions that world leaders and international organizations make right now will set the course for years to come. Will we move towards greater cooperation and shared prosperity? Or will we slide into an era of trade fragmentation where everyone fends for themselves? History has a clear lesson for us here. When global trade shrinks, everybody loses. We've seen it before with the trade wars of the past. Sure, protectionist policies might seem like a good idea to protect a specific industry in the short term, but they almost always backfire. They lead to higher prices for consumers, fewer choices, and an overall loss of economic well-being for the entire population. It's a lose-lose situation. Now, you might be thinking, but you just said 2025 had good growth. Isn't that a reason to be optimistic? And yes, after the chaos of the pandemic and various economic crises, seeing positive numbers is definitely a relief. But the WTO's analysts are trained to look deeper, beyond the surface-level figures. They use sophisticated models to identify underlying patterns and risks. And what they're seeing is not good. The very engines that powered the growth in 2025 are starting to sputter and reverse. Tariff policies are getting more aggressive. Political instability in key regions is creating a cloud of uncertainty, making businesses hesitant to invest and plan for the future. When companies don't know what the rules will be tomorrow, they tend to sit on their hands. And that stalls economic progress for everyone. To truly grasp what's at stake, we have to remember that international trade isn't just about abstract numbers on a balance sheet. Every percentage point of growth or decline represents real-world consequences. It means jobs created or lost. It means families having financial security or facing hardship. It means businesses thriving or being forced to shut their doors. When the WTO warns of a slowdown, they're talking about a direct impact on the lives of billions of people. This global network moves trillions of dollars every year. It's what connects a farmer in rural Brazil to a coffee drinker in Europe, a factory worker in Asia to a shopper in North America, and a raw material producer in Africa to an industrial plant in Oceania. This incredible, interdependent system is what gives us access to a world of products, allows companies to innovate and find the best suppliers, and helps new technologies spread quickly across the globe. So, when we discuss a slowdown in global trade, we're not just talking about some dry economic problem for experts to debate. We're talking about the future of employment. We're talking about the prices you pay for groceries at the supermarket. We're talking about business opportunities for entrepreneurs and the overall quality of life for everyone. This is precisely why the WTO's latest report is so important and deserves our full attention. It is a wake-up call for policymakers and a crucial piece of information for all of us. As global citizens, the decisions made in the coming months will shape our economic future. Let's hope they choose the path of cooperation. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the engine room of the global economy, world trade. The World Trade Organization just released its latest numbers, and they paint a fascinating and somewhat concerning picture of where we are and where we're headed. So, grab a coffee, and let's break down what these figures really mean for all of us. Let's start with the big picture from the WTO report. In 2025, the global trade in merchandise, that's physical goods crossing borders, grew by about 3%. Now, 3% might not sound like a blockbuster number, but hold on. In the world of global trade, that represents billions upon billions of dollars in new transactions and millions of tons of products being shipped, flown, and trucked across the globe. After a few rocky years of uncertainty, this growth signaled a significant and welcome recovery. But it wasn't just physical goods. The services sector was also booming. We're talking about digital services, international tourism finally getting back on its feet, transport, logistics, and high-value consulting and financial services. They all hit record volumes. The massive digital shift we've all experienced has blown the doors wide open for trade and services. Think about it. Professionals can now work for companies on the other side of the planet without ever leaving their home office. This is a fundamental change in how the global economy operates. However, the WTO report isn't just a victory lap for 2025. The organization's job is to look ahead, and that's where the mood starts to shift. The projections for 2026 are pointing towards a serious slowdown. The forecast suggests that growth could plummet to just 1 to 1.5%. That's less than half the pace we saw in 2025, and it's a big deal. This slowdown won't hit everyone equally. The report indicates that different regions and sectors will experience this very differently. Developed countries, with their already mature economies, might see their trade growth grind to a halt or even shrink. But for developing countries, which often rely heavily on exporting goods to power their economic growth, the challenges could be much more severe. A slowdown in global demand directly impacts their ability to create jobs and improve living standards. The numbers also reveal some fascinating shifts in who is trading with whom. We're seeing a continuous rise in what's called South-South trade, that is, trade between developing countries. This is no longer a minor trend. It now makes up a huge slice of the global trade pie. It reflects a structural rebalancing of the world economy. Countries like China, India, and Brazil aren't just the world's factories anymore. They are becoming massive consumer markets in their own right, driving demand and creating new trade routes. On the flip side, trade between developed economies has been showing signs of weakness. The ongoing trade tensions, especially between the United States and China, have left lasting scars. Remember all the talk about synchronized global supply chains? Many of those have been fractured. Companies have been forced to rethink their entire operations, scrambling to find new suppliers and different markets to reduce their risk. This massive reshuffling is costly and creates a lot of friction in the system. Let's zoom in on a few key sectors the report highlights. The automotive industry, a traditional giant of global trade, is in the middle of a massive revolution. The shift to electric vehicles is completely reconfiguring supply chains. New players are emerging as major powers, especially in the manufacturing of batteries and sophisticated electronic components. The old guard of the auto world is racing to keep up, and this is redrawing the map of automotive trade. Then there's agriculture. Food security is a massive global issue, and trade is at the heart of it. The report notes how climate change is disrupting traditional farming. Some regions are struggling with drought and extreme weather, while others are finding new agricultural possibilities. This makes the trade in food increasingly strategic. You can see why many nations are hesitant to become completely dependent on other countries for their food supply, leading to complex trade policies and negotiations. And of course, we have to talk about technology. Semiconductors, telecom gear, software, and digital services are a rapidly growing segment of global trade. But this is also the sector most entangled with geopolitics. National security concerns and protectionist industrial policies are front and center. We see countries pouring billions into developing their own domestic tech industries to reduce their reliance on foreign suppliers, especially for critical components like microchips. This tech decoupling is a major source of friction in global trade. Energy is another huge piece of the puzzle. As the world slowly transitions away from fossil fuels, the traditional trade in oil and gas faces a very uncertain future. At the same time, a whole new trade ecosystem is sprouting up around renewable energy technologies. We're talking about massive global flows of solar panels, wind turbines, and all the equipment that goes with them. This energy transition isn't just an environmental story, it's a trade story. The report also sheds light on a trend that affects many of us directly: cross-border e-commerce. More and more, we're buying products straight from sellers in other countries, all thanks to digital platforms that make it incredibly easy. While this is great for consumer choice, it creates massive headaches for regulators. They're trying to figure out how to handle issues like taxation, product safety standards, and protecting consumers when the seller is halfway around the world. And none of this trade happens without logistics. The cost and efficiency of shipping, whether by sea, air, or land, have a direct impact on everything. We've all seen the headlines in recent years: wild swings in freight costs, container shortages causing massive port backlogs, and then periods of overcapacity. This volatility creates a huge amount of uncertainty for businesses trying to plan their imports and exports, adding another layer of complexity to an already complicated picture. So, let's put a number on it. In value terms, global trade in 2025 topped $25 trillion. Let that sink in. That is more than the entire GDP of any single country on Earth, including the US or China. It's a staggering figure that shows just how deeply interconnected our economies have become. But these cold, hard numbers don't tell the full story. Behind every transaction, there are complex business decisions, shifting government policies, game-changing technological innovations, and the evolving tastes and habits of consumers like you and me. The world of trade is constantly in motion, and understanding these trends is key to understanding our world. Have you ever wondered what makes the world's economy tick? For decades, it's been the smooth flow of goods across borders, a process we call international trade. But what if that engine started to sputter? The World Trade Organization is sounding an alarm, predicting a significant slowdown in global trade for 2026. This isn't just some random economic fluctuation. It has a storm brewing from two major forces: the rise of trade tariffs and escalating global political instability. Let's break down exactly what this means for you, for businesses, and for the global economy as a whole. First up, let's talk about tariffs. Simply put, a tariff is a tax on imported goods. When a country slaps a tariff on something, it makes the foreign product more expensive for its own people. The idea, at least in theory, is to protect local industries from outside competition, hoping to boost domestic jobs and production. It sounds like a good plan, right? Well, the reality is far more complicated. Think of it like a domino effect. When one country raises tariffs, its trading partners don't just sit back and take it. They often retaliate with their own tariffs. This sparks a trade war, a spiral of protectionism where everyone ends up losing. Suddenly, companies that depend on imported parts for their products see their costs skyrocket. Consumers like you and me end up paying higher prices for everything from cars to groceries. And the intricate global supply chains, built carefully over many decades, start to unravel. In recent years, we've seen this play out in real time. What started as specific disputes between a few nations has now spread, impacting entire industries. Steel, aluminum, technology, agriculture, you name it, it's been affected. The WTO, which used to be the referee in these disputes, has found its authority weakened, with more countries choosing to go it alone and make their own rules. But the damage from tariffs isn't just about higher prices, it's about the uncertainty they create. Imagine you're a business owner wanting to build a new factory. You need to plan for the future. But how can you when you don't know if new tariffs will suddenly make your entire business model unprofitable? It's like trying to build a house on shaky ground. Faced with this risk, many companies simply hit pause on their investments, waiting for the economic weather to clear. This hesitation slows down growth and innovation across the board. Certain sectors are feeling the heat more than others. Take the auto industry, for example. A modern car is a global puzzle, with parts sourced from dozens of countries. When tariffs are added at multiple steps of the assembly line, the final cost of the car can jump significantly. Agriculture is another prime target. Farmers are often a powerful political group, so their products become bargaining chips and trade wars. But when their access to export markets is cut off by retaliatory tariffs, the very people these policies were meant to protect end up getting hurt the most. Now, let's shift to the second major storm cloud on the horizon: political instability. The world of 2025 is a landscape of geopolitical tension, regional conflicts, abrupt changes in government, friction between major world powers, and the rise of populist movements are all creating an environment of unpredictability. For international trade, this is like poison. How does political instability hurt trade? First, it creates direct physical risks. Companies operating in unstable regions have to worry about the safety of their investments, their employees, and their day-to-day operations. Naturally, this makes them hesitant to invest or expand their business in those areas. Second, political upheaval often leads to sudden, drastic changes in economic policy. A new government might tear up old trade agreements, impose controls on money leaving the country, or even seize far-known industries. This kind of radical unpredictability is a nightmare for businesses, especially those in sectors like energy or infrastructure that require massive, long-term investments where profits might not be seen for decades. Third, political tensions frequently lead to economic sanctions. This is when countries use trade restrictions as a weapon to achieve political goals. While sanctions can be a necessary tool of foreign policy, they inevitably disrupt trade, causing ripple effects that can harm economies far beyond the intended target. It's like throwing a rock into a pond. The ripples spread out in every direction. At the heart of this issue is a breakdown of trust. International trade thrives on trust. Trust that contracts will be honored, that rules will be followed, and that partners will act in good faith. When that trust erodes, whether due to accusations of unfair trade, intellectual property theft, or industrial espionage, the very foundation of the global trading system begins to crumble. We're also seeing a trend where countries use national security as a reason to restrict trade. While every nation has a right to protect itself, there is a growing concern that this justification is being used as a smokescreen for old-fashioned protectionism, allowing countries to shield their industries from competition under the guise of security. All this instability is causing the global trading system to fragment. Instead of one big, open marketplace for everyone, we're seeing the world break up into smaller, regional trading blocks. While this can create some efficiencies within each block, it also builds walls between them. The result is a less connected, less efficient, and ultimately less prosperous global economy. The very international institutions designed to prevent this, like the WTO, are under immense pressure, struggling to keep the system together. So, what does this all mean? The predicted slowdown isn't just a headline for economists. It's a warning about the future of our interconnected world. Rising tariffs and political instability are creating a perfect storm that threatens to reverse decades of global progress. Understanding these forces is the first step toward finding solutions and navigating the turbulent waters ahead. The future of global trade depends on rebuilding trust, respecting rules, and recognizing that in a global economy, we are all in the same boat. Did you hear the predictions? Global trade is expected to slow down in 2026. But what does that actually mean for you and me? It's not just some abstract number. It's a storm brewing on the horizon. A trade slowdown means slower economic growth. When exports fall, companies produce less, they hire less, and they invest less. For countries built on exporting goods, this could trigger a severe crisis. Think about the ripple effect. Millions of jobs in export industries are at risk. Small businesses, the heart of our economies, could be crushed by complex tariffs and uncertainty. And for us, the consumers, get ready for higher prices and fewer choices on the shelves. Products we take for granted might become luxuries. This isn't just about economics. It's about our daily lives, our job security, and even global stability. Are we prepared for what's coming? Let's talk about it. Follow for more insights on what this means for our future. Have you seen the latest forecast from the World Trade Organization? It's painting a pretty concerning picture of a global trade slowdown. It really makes you wonder, what can we do about it? Are we just stuck on this path? Or can we steer away from the worst of it? The good news is, yes, we absolutely can. But it's going to take some serious political will, global teamwork, and a lot of coordinated action. First things first, let's talk about the tariffs. It's time to hit the reverse button on this escalating trade war. The simple truth is, nobody wins in a trade war. When protectionism takes over, everyone loses out. We need countries to get back to the negotiating table, both one-on-one and in big groups, to lower the existing tariffs and promise not to add new ones. The WTO is the perfect place to make this happen, but it can't do it alone. It needs the big players to back it up. This brings me to my next point. We need to strengthen the whole multilateral trading system. The WTO itself is due for a major upgrade. It was built for a different era and needs to be modernized to tackle 21st century challenges like digital trade and industrial subsidies. A big part of this is fixing its dispute settlement system, which has been stuck in limbo. Getting that back online is critical. Of course, getting everyone to agree on new rules won't be easy, but it's a necessary step to keep the global economy humming. While we're working on the big global picture, regional trade agreements can also be a huge help. Think of them as stepping stones. They're not a replacement for worldwide deals, but they can keep the ball rolling on trade liberalization among countries that are on the same page. The key is to make sure these regional deals play nice with the global rules and don't just build new walls against everyone else. But it's not just about what happens between countries. Domestic policies are just as important. When trade patterns shift, some workers get left behind. We need to invest in retraining programs and create strong social safety nets to help people through these transitions. Investing in things like education and infrastructure also makes a country more competitive without having to resort to putting up walls. Building public support for free trade means showing people that we've got their back. Now, what about all the political instability in the world? That's a tougher nut to crack. These issues often have deep historical roots, but here's where economic diplomacy comes in. When countries have shared economic interests, it gives them a powerful reason to solve their problems peacefully. Think about it. When your businesses and your people are benefiting from trading with another country, you're much less likely to want to start a fight. International organizations can play a huge role here by facilitating dialogue and building trust. And let's not forget the private sector. Companies have a powerful voice. They can speak up for smart trade policies and explain to both politicians and the public how tariffs and protectionism directly affect their businesses and, ultimately, people's jobs. Industry associations and chambers of commerce can team up to make the message even louder. At the same time, companies need to be responsible and make sure their own practices are fair and sustainable. One of the biggest problems is how sneakily some of these trade barriers are put in place. They hide in technical regulations, complicated customs rules, or hidden subsidies. This is where transparency becomes our secret weapon. The more we shine a light on these practices, the harder it is for governments to get away with them. Organizations like the WTO are vital for monitoring and reporting on these hidden barriers, keeping everyone honest. As we look forward, we also have to talk about sustainability. Trade can't just be about profit. It has to be good for the planet and for people. Modern trade agreements are starting to include chapters on the environment, labor rights, and sustainable development. This is a fantastic trend because it helps ensure that the benefits of trade are shared more widely and don't come at the expense of our planet. Technology also offers some incredible opportunities. Think about how digitalization is making it easier for small businesses to sell their products all over the world. Technologies like blockchain can make supply chains more transparent and efficient. By investing in these areas, we can counteract some of the negative drag from tariffs and political uncertainty. It's about using innovation to open doors that were previously closed. It's also crucial that we get better at talking about the benefits of trade. For a lot of people, the word trade immediately brings to mind job losses and factory closures. And those are real concerns that need to be addressed. But that's only half the story. Trade also means more affordable products for all of us, a wider variety of choices, new markets for local producers, and new jobs in industries where we excel. We need to tell that full story. Of course, this isn't about blind faith in free trade. Policymakers have to strike a careful balance. Legitimate concerns about national security and the resilience of our supply chains have come to the forefront recently, and we can't ignore them. The key is to respond in a way that's proportionate and based on solid evidence, not just using it as an excuse for more protectionism. And this has to be a team effort. Developed countries have a responsibility to keep their markets open and help poorer nations build up their capacity to trade. In return, developing countries need to work on reforms that improve their business environments and strengthen their governance. When everyone participates and benefits, the entire system becomes stronger and more stable. Looking even further ahead, the very nature of trade is changing. We're talking about digital trade, cross-border data flows, artificial intelligence, and the platform economy. These are rewriting the rules of the game. Our regulatory systems need to keep up, fostering innovation without letting things get out of control. It's a whole new frontier for international cooperation. So, yes, the WTO's report is a wake-up call, but it's not a death sentence. The slowdown they're predicting for the future isn't set in stone. With visionary leadership, smart policies based on evidence, and a real commitment to working together, we can change course. History has shown us that moments of crisis can also be moments of incredible renewal and reform. At the end of the day, international trade is about people. It's about creating opportunities, building prosperity, and fostering connections that cross borders. When it works well, the global trading system raises living standards, reduces poverty, and helps us understand each other better. That's something worth fighting for. The WTO's report is just a reminder of why the fight is so urgent and necessary. If you found this analysis helpful and want to stay updated on the global economy, please give this video a like, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.